All right, let's get started. Hello again, and please welcome to How to Retain Early Learning Teachers and Address Hiring Challenges, put on by Procare Solutions and Learning Beyond Paper. We're very glad to have you here with us today. Let's jump to the next screen, and we'll walk through some housekeeping items. As the webinar progresses, don't worry, we can't see or hear you. Video and sound is turned off during the presentation. And we most certainly are going to have time for questions at the end. So enter them in the question tab during the webinar as you think of them. We'll respond to some as best we can live, and we'll also respond to others after the webinar is done. Technical difficulties, if you're having them, exit out of all the other software on your device, and a lot of times that will clear things up. So thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate it. Let's jump here. And before we begin, we want to tell you a little bit about Procare. We are celebrating our 30th year in business this year, and we've actually been around a little bit longer than that. With Procare, you can do everything for your childcare center. It's all one cloud-based integrated platform. Some of the biggest things are billing and payments. What Procare can do is take the hassle out of that. Payments are posted to an account. You're not standing in line at the bank depositing checks. It's all done for you. We have a great childcare mobile app that works well for communicating with parents, sharing updates, and also back to that tuition collection. There's a lot of things on that circle, so I won't go through them all. But one of the things that's on there is lesson planning, and that falls into the category of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's move on to the next slide, please. And to tell you about that, we have two people who are very knowledgeable about curriculum. One is Laura Delgado. She is the Vice President of Curriculum and Professional Development at Learning Beyond Paper. The other is Cale Rogers. He's the lead e-learning designer and developer here at Procare, and he is going to walk you through a demo today so you can actually see what Procare Early Learning, that's the curriculum we're going to be talking about today, can do for your center. So I'm going to step away. I'm going to hand it over to Laura. Laura, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be here to share this wonderful partnership with you and really an amazing curriculum solution. I have been in the early learning space my entire life. Most recently, I worked for Florida's Office of Early Learning for about 7 years in the preschool division, and I had the privilege of being a curriculum review board member. So basically, curriculum companies would send in their kits and binders, and we would review them to make sure that they aligned with Florida standards, and we would get them approved or not. And that afforded me the opportunity to really see the different publishers that are out there. And they're all great. And I worked with them as a provider, as a teacher, as an owner. But what I found is that a lot of these products out there are really leaving teachers behind, especially now. So everyone's mission is to provide high quality early learning programming for children. But you can't do that unless you have the proper tools. You can spend $100,000 on curriculum, but if your teachers don't know how to implement the curriculum or develop a lesson plan from it, then it's a waste of money. And so what's exciting about Learning Beyond Paper is that we really wanted to build something and develop something that was intentional for teachers. Next slide, please. So Learning Beyond Paper is the only early learning curriculum designed to support teachers in real time. Say goodbye to those books and binders. Everything that teachers need will be at their fingertips, especially with being embedded in the Procare app. It's really, really easy to use, and Cale's going to show that to you. Next slide, please. And so let's talk a little bit about the Great Resignation impact. Next slide, please. So many of you are probably still suffering from many of the things that you see on the screen. We know that, I know we're all tired of talking about COVID, but it's a reality that really highlighted some of the challenges that we were having already in early childhood in the field. I remember my mom had preschools in the 90s, and she would complain about staffing and trying to find the right people and lesson planning and curriculum. So it's not new, but what happened with COVID and the Great Resignation is, teachers started leaving the industry and new teachers were coming into the field. So these are some of the things that you might be suffering: staffing shortages, challenges covering classrooms, lack of continuity. So if you have teachers that are bouncing from classroom to classroom, or you're having to combine children into different classrooms, there's that lack of continuity of care. Stress levels go up, behavior challenges go up, especially if you have untrained teachers who don't have the tools or the support that they need to be able to implement a curriculum. And remember, curriculum is the backbone of your program. That's the roadmap of how your teachers are not only going to get through the day, but also make sure that those children are prepared for the next level. And then expenses, your budget, those curriculum products that are out there are very, very expensive. Sometimes up to $5,000 to $7,000 per classroom that you have to renew every couple of years and then get training on. And then no planning time. So planning time has always been a luxury, but now when I go into centers, it's very rare that teachers have planning time that is paid during their work time. Many teachers are taking lesson plans home, trying to develop those lesson plans on their own time without getting paid. So that definitely is a challenge, causing stress and adding to that Great Resignation. Next slide, please. And so let's talk a little bit more about the childcare workforce shortage. People are leaving their jobs because of burnout, work-life balance, and management styles. And one of the things that happened during COVID is people stayed home, right? And they kind of figured, well, I want to stay home a little bit longer. And if my job is not providing the tools that I need to successfully do my job without that stress, without burnout, providing that work-life balance, then I'm not going to go back. And so think about that. Think about your center, think about your program, think about your staff. What is the impact of stress levels on your teachers and staff? Is there a need for that flexible employment? Is there increased pressure, friction, and misunderstandings? 2/3 of providers are reporting a staffing shortage. 52% of providers are forced to serve fewer children, and there's 37% that have long wait lists. And it's not so much that they don't have space for the children, it's that they don't have staff to open up those other classrooms. Next slide, please. The current landscape is that a lot of teachers, highly qualified, educated teachers that really we've spent a lot of time and effort in developing and trying to build capacity, are leaving the childcare industry. They're going into fast food restaurants or grocery stores, are paying them, a lot of money, and they don't have to be in a classroom by themselves with 10 2-year-olds with no support, with a curriculum that they don't understand. So they're really choosing to have a more stress-free environment. That's why it's really important that you assess your program and you evaluate if you are providing those tools that they need in order to succeed. Next slide, please. One of the biggest things that you can provide them is an effective, intentional curriculum. The impact on children that this is having, again, the continuity of care. So those behavior challenges go up if you're switching teachers in and out of a classroom or switching children in and out of classrooms. They have an inability to form bonds. The classroom management challenges, it's really hard for a new teacher to go in mid-week, mid-month into a classroom with 15 3-year-olds by themselves and trying to figure out all, to get through the day. There's that lack of school to home connection. So the bonds with families, the communication with families is really deteriorating because there's no time. And then there's negative impact on development and academics. So all of that can be impacted in a positive way if you provide teachers with the resources and the tools that they need to be able to do their job effectively. Next slide, please. So how do we retain and hire teachers? How do we get the right people in the door? And then how do we keep them? Next slide, please. For the first time ever, we have 5 generations of teachers in the early learning workspace. Think about that. 5 generations. All right. That's happening in all workplaces, but 5 generations. So there is a big difference between how these different generations receive information, how they communicate, how they do their jobs. So it's just very interesting to see the differences. For older generations and early childhood, they have experienced limited curriculum innovations, have kept the industry stagnant. So many are used to creating their own lesson plans, or they've just done it for so long, they know how to kind of run a classroom. But when it comes to lesson plan implementation, that might be something new, but many have used other curriculum products out there. There's recognition that innovation is needed, and it's prompted by the digital native children that are in their care. And for most of the workforce, it's made up of the Gen X and Gen Z millennials, which are the digital natives. Innovation is required to support their needs, and real-time access to tools and ways to engage with children and families will impact that success. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about these digital natives, because they are the majority of the workforce right now. And remember, you have digital natives teaching digital natives and caring for digital natives. You all know that, if you have your own children or grandchildren at 1 and 2 years old, they already know how to handle an iPad, a remote, a phone. It's just incredible. And so how do you support not only the children that are digital natives, but your teachers and your staff that are digital natives? They function best when they network. Okay, we're talking about teachers here. They parallel process information and multitask. So they're masters at multitasking. They receive information really fast within seconds. They prefer graphics versus text, and they thrive on instant gratification and frequent rewards. That's why it's very challenging to find curriculum that really matches the needs of digital natives. Next slide, please. So some of the hiring challenges are that new teachers are predominantly high school graduates or career changers with little to no training or job experience and education. So some of them might have passion for children. They love working with children, playing with children, but maybe they don't have the background. Or sometimes you do have a college graduate with a master's degree, but maybe they're not the right person in that classroom for that age group. Curriculum historically has been designed for master's degree educated teachers. So one of the things that was interesting when I worked for the Office of Early Learning is I owned preschools. Earlier in my career, I was a teacher, director, assistant teacher. I've done it all. I've been that teacher by myself in the classroom with 10 2-year-olds on my second day trying to figure it out. I have been that director with 3 people call out sick. I have a baby on my hip trying to get lunch out, and in walks the health department. So I have gone through those challenges. But one of the things that was interesting is that when I was at the Office of Early Learning reviewing curriculum, and these publishers would send me those big kits and binders and paper-based programs that they had, me having over 25, 30 years experience in the childcare space with a master's degree and an early childhood trainer, I didn't know where to start. So imagine someone who's changing careers coming into the childcare industry, or someone straight out of high school right now who, these kids that are coming out of high school, they don't do research papers going to the library sifting through books. They go to Google, they go to the internet, they want everything digital and online. So how do we support that? It's going to be very difficult to retain someone, a millennial, a Gen Zer, that is used to doing everything that is handheld on a tablet, and then you hand them a bunch of binders and books and say, here, do some lesson planning. It's going to be very, very stressful and hard for them to really wrap their heads around that. Limited opportunities beyond grant funding to raise salaries to be more competitive versus other career paths. So that's some of the challenges that we're having in the childcare industry. Hopefully with all these grants that are coming out, you all are taking advantage of those. And by the way, you can use those grants for curriculum purchasing. Next slide, please. So the need to retain staff and teachers with the right tools to succeed is needed. The first thing, next slide, please. The first thing is to think about innovation. Innovation is not only about technology, it's about work-life balance, right? It's about thinking outside of the box, really surveying your staff and seeing what's going to work for them. Obviously, you have a business to run. Most childcare centers are open from 6 to 6 or 6:30 to 6 or 7 to 6. So you have to run the business and you have to be open, when parents need you. So not everyone can come in at 6 and leave at 3, but maybe there are alternative schedules that you can offer your teachers. Maybe survey them. You're not going to know their needs until you actually ask them. And so, thinking outside of the box, what you did prior to 2020 is not going to work now, right? The world is different. People's expectations are different. People's needs are different. And so you really need to speak with your teachers and see what it is that they need from you, what it is that they need from the center as an employer in order for this relationship to continue and to be strong so you can retain the good teachers that you have. Because it could be that a teacher might need a day off every week, right? A day off every single week. So why don't they work a 4-day, 10-hour day, right? So some of us have never thought of that. Like, wait a minute, it's always either 6 to 3 or 9 to 6. But why can't it be, a 7 to 6 schedule and they get every Wednesday off or something? Maybe that'll help them be able to care for their families or run the errands that they need to do. So so innovation, again, is not all about technology. However, innovation also includes technology. So if those big kits and binders are not being used, if you go into your center and you ask your teachers, where's your curriculum kit? And if it's buried in a closet, if it's got dust on it and then they're not using it, then you're wasting your money. And when I was working for the Office of Early Learning, I would go into centers and ask them, well, what curriculum do you use? And they would say, oh, we use X, Y, and Z. Where is it? Oh, it's in the director's office. Or, oh, I don't know. I haven't seen my kit in a while. Or it'd be buried under a bunch of boxes in the closet. And I would ask them, well, are you using it? Well, we have to have it because we have a certain grant, but we don't really use it. We do our own thing. So you're going to have to reevaluate, assess your program, and see what is being used because you want something that's intentional. Next slide, please. So the importance of strong curriculum, as I said before, curriculum touches and impacts every aspect of your program. So that is the backbone of your program. It's the roadmap, not only for children, but also for teachers. It should be helping build that capacity in teachers to help deliver those developmentally appropriate activities and skills for children. It must be aligned with your program's philosophy, mission, and vision. So think about that, ask yourself, is the curriculum that I'm using right now in line with my vision, with my mission, with my philosophy? Curriculum should support the development of teachers and children, so both teachers and children. Intentionality should be at the center of a curriculum's approach. Next slide, please. And curriculum must support teachers and promote their success now and for the future. Curriculum should create stronger connections with families and provide high quality 21st century experiences for all children. So it's a two-pronged approach there. Curriculum should be supporting your teachers while they implement that high quality early learning programming for the children in your program. So now we're going to see a demo with Cale. So I'm going to pass it over to Cale Rogers so he can introduce himself, and then we are here to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laura. So now I get a chance to show you in action the how-to of how we work through Procare Online and some of these great connections. So on the left side of my screen, this is just a Chrome browser, and I'm going to share that here in a second. Get this going. All right, so you should see a screen with two, just minimize this real quick. With two windows on there. So on the left side, we have the Chrome browser, and on the right side, we have the iPad application loaded, and I'm going to show you how that works with the iPad. So let's schedule a week. When you log into Procare, it shows up on the dashboard. That's the default screen that you'll see. And to find your schedule for the week, you'll click on Learning. And Learning Beyond Paper is scheduled week by week. So we see the current week up in the dashboard. We can switch the week that we are focusing on. We can also take a look at the rooms that we are scheduling. So each room needs to be scheduled individually. Right now you're looking at the pre-K4 room. So I'll switch to my pre-K4 room. And I've already built out a lot of the lessons. So the lesson structure is very simple. There's 5 lessons every day, and these lessons build on each other as the learning progression that Laura had mentioned. And we need to schedule Fridays. So I'm going to add in the lessons for Friday. And to do that, I just need to pay attention to some of this nomenclature here. So in the Learning Beyond paper, we have a week and a day structure. This is week 16, and it'll be day 3. And just to note on the weeks, it's always 2-digit. So our lower weeks, 01, 02, 03, that requires that 0 ahead of it if you're searching for something. And I will go ahead and add the rest of the Friday lessons here by clicking on Add Lesson. And then it brings up my lesson database, and I will use the filter bar to filter all of my pre-K4 content. And when I apply that, it shows me all the lessons for pre-K4. And it starts it in order. So we have day 1 at the top, and day 5 is going to be Friday. So I'll go ahead and scroll down and then click through the lessons for day 5. So I'll select all 5 and add them to the week. And there they are. So you can see very quickly, this is a huge time saver. It is very easy to jump in on a week, add all of the lessons throughout the week. And now that becomes active on your iPad as well. So if I'm a teacher, I can take a look at my iPad and open up the Procare app. And when I do, it brings me up to this starter screen, and I can click on the classroom that I'm going to be working in and see the students who are checked in. And I can go to activity at the bottom. And this brings up my activity window. And at the bottom of that window, I have view today's lessons. And so I'll jump into view today's lessons. And here they are today. So this is all the lessons for the week. And you can see how responsive the system is as well. All of the December 2nd, Friday, December 2nd content that I've added in is immediately available on the iPad. So there's not a lot of delay in what's going on. And then as a teacher, I have all of my information here that I need to do the lesson. So I can click on a lesson and it provides the details for that lesson. And then in addition to that, I have my scope and sequence right here. So all the materials that I might need to complete this lesson and the scope and sequence of how I might be able to walk through this lesson with students in the classroom. So all the information is provided right there. I also have the option of sharing a photo with parents as to how this lesson is going. So if I wanted to share with parents the lesson activity, I'll just select students who are checked in and say I want to share this. And then I can share the activity as just text information with the PDFs that are included with the lesson, or I can click on my camera icon and I can just take a quick photo. So, you know, maybe we took a trip to the Continental Divide. I'll take a photo of that, use the photo, and I can share that activity. So it'll share all of the lesson information, the photo that I just took of students who are enjoying the lesson, and I've just shared that. So it's a great tool for teachers to stay on track and to be able to do all of their planning and some parent engagement as well with that. And I will move over to back to the other side here. So we'll go back to the Chrome browser and talk about some of the other components of this. So some of the other tools that you have access to are this little navigation ribbon right here. So when we click on that, we have Learning Beyond Paper resources, and we have a materials list. So the resources, when I click on that, will take me to the Procare online support area. And this is where you'll be able to gather some of those resources together. So when I click on Learning Beyond Paper resources, this will share with you different information that you might need to be able to work on building out lesson content or understanding what you're doing with these lessons. And then lesson materials is a great way to understand what materials do I need to collect to make this happen. So if I click on my pre-K4 room, all of the weekly materials are available individually by week. You can also download all 52 weeks. And there is a quick buying option in Lakeshore. We have a connection with Lakeshore that if you click on Lakeshore, they actually have these pre-made kits that are available. So that'll make it a little easier for you to be able to order materials if you want to go the Lakeshore route. And just to see what this might look like, if I click on my week 16, this will be a PDF of all the materials that I will need for my week 16 lessons. So all 5 days, all 5 lessons, all the 25 for the week. These are the materials that will be needed for that week. So very easy to plan, very easily laid out, and it works very simple. So if I were to jump back over to my lesson structure, we can look at how these are built. So I'll click on my edit function here. And all of the lessons are built in a template structure, and you can actually create your own lessons using this same template structure. And it's very simple. We have a title and a category that you can sort through, and then rooms that they belong to. So this pre-K4 content would only come up in a pre-K4 search, and that just helps you to keep this content sorted. And if I wanted to be able to create my own lessons, I can do that. If I click over to the All Lessons library and click on Create Lesson, I now have that same template structure provided to me. So I can create my own custom title, descriptions, outcomes. I can join those to the lesson category so I can follow that learning progression that we've developed for the rest of the lessons that we'll have for the week. And I can add other content to it. So I can tag it for the different rooms that I want this to be assigned to. I can connect milestones to it, select specific rooms that it should be available to. And I can also add URLs and PDF links to provide resources for teachers so that they would, for example, be able to see the scope and sequence of the custom lesson that you've designed. And these custom lessons can be searched in the regular library. So you can have, all of this alongside all of your other content. And you can, build your lesson content so that you have some custom content in addition to the material that's already available on that side. One other important feature of the tool is this really handy chat function. So this is a great gateway to getting help with anything you need. So at any time, if you need help with something, you can search the help articles from this chat section. That's just a quick way to get there. You can also ask a question. So you're able to send messages from this tool. And that's any question that you might have for implementation, how to do something, how your account is functioning, whatever it is, just send a message. And it's a quick way to get a hold of us. That's also available on the Procare help site as well. So when we jump back over to some of those help resource areas, that's also available here. So on the Procare Online support, you have the ability to search all of these articles, but you also have that nice chat tool as well. So you can find these things quickly. So it's all about speed and ease of use. Are there any questions on the how-to demo?
It doesn't look like we have any questions popping up right now specifically about the demo. Do you have anything else you want to show, Kale, or does that wrap it up?
That is it for the how-to.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that means that we can jump right into other questions that we have. Laura and Kale, I'll let you guys decide which one of you wants to answer these questions. Our first one is, how do I know if I can use this in the state where I live because the standards are so different in each state?
Okay, yeah, so that's a great question and one that we get often. So we are aligned with all 50 states. So there is a state alignment for every state standard. So you'll be fine with that.
Okay. Is there a way to tag standards and milestones in the activities to a specific child?
Yes, you can do that. Kale, I don't know if you want to show it. We also have, oh yeah, he's pulling it back up. Yep, so he'll show you how to do that.
There are custom tagging features that we have available to specific lessons. So when we go into the labels here and we label them for rooms, that's capable there. You can create information there, or you can go into the school students under students and walk into like our student who is checked in right now. and you're able to add custom tags to where those students are assigned to. So you have some ways to manage it at the student level for searching, but you also have some ways to sort of build in some customizations to anything on the Learning Beyond paper. And that whether it's a custom lesson or a pre-built lesson, you have full editing capability as well. So you can, even though these are the lessons that ship with Learning Beyond paper, you can modify them in any way that you want to and save the changes that you make. So that's possible.
Okay, let's jump to the next question. How do you handle the lesson plan for a 3-day week? Who wants to take that one?
So you are able to customize your lesson plans and move them around. So for a 3-day week, you would just add for those 3 days that you have your children. Now, one thing that I believe Kil mentioned, that the lessons are laid out in a developmental progression. So you do have the ability to pick and choose different lessons. You can go out of order if you want, but we do definitely caution you that you make sure that when you add a lesson that's out of order, that you make sure your children are ready for that lesson and that you didn't skip any foundational skills that might have been covered in a previously skipped lesson. But yeah, you would be able to just build your 3-day lesson. Kale, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, it might be a good idea too to start on that day one. So let's say your schedule was Tuesday through Thursday. You might start your day one on Tuesday. You can kind of see in some of these that by the time we get to day 5, we're just building on some of these activities. So if I were to kind of scroll down and look at the way that some of these function, it's going through the materials, but then it's just sort of building and repeating on some of those things. So we reread some of those books. We build on some of those activities. So it may work by day 3 that you've actually built a great foundation there, and that the reinforcement could be skipped. I mean, I think it's always best to always follow a curriculum plan through where you can, but I think there's some ways you could supplement that. But I would suggest trying to start from day 1 through however long that you can get through, whether it's, you have to stop at day 3 or day 4, or maybe you have a way to pick up information after that.
Okay, and we did have one comment I wanted to share, that I like that Procare has a relationship with Lakeshore. So that's something we are proud of and happy to offer you guys. Yeah. Talking about lesson plans, are there themes?
Yeah, so we have themes, and let's see, Kale, I think if you go into
I can go into all lessons and search some themes here. So we have a variety of themes that are built into it. If I were to search for dinosaurs, for example, so I just went through Dino here, you can see how some of those themes are grouped into the area and into those lesson areas. You can also see that in the weekly plan as well, that it sort of builds on itself. So this concept of bunny cakes, this story study that's walking through, we have nature concepts that start out the week, and then we have this book that by day 3 we're reading, and then we're rereading it. So some of those types of themes are also built into it, and it's not always like a topic theme. Sometimes it's more of like a skills theme.
Okay. And that ties into one of the questions that we got, which is, does each week build upon the next? Just wondering what happens if you skip a day or 2 in the week due to days off or special events.
Yeah, so just, you do have that ability to skip around and skip weeks. I know I had a couple of centers contacted me last week because they skipped the whole Thanksgiving week. They were closed and winter break is coming up. So yeah, you can either just skip it or pick up where you left off, or use that as activity kind of source folder, where if you need to replace an activity in a future week, go back to those weeks that you skipped. But remember, they are in a developmental progression, so those skills do build upon each other. Not every single activity, some activities you're just reading a book and doing an activity based on that book. Other activities of children, for example, are learning to sort, and sorting is the foundation to counting. So if you skip sorting and then you go to a counting activity, you've just skipped a very big foundational concept for children. So just keep that in mind when you are skipping around.
Okay. I see assessments available on the menu. Are assessments linked to the lessons in some way?
Hale, do you want to show that in the lessons?
So it's definitely possible to build in assessments. It really depends on your state standards. And one of the reasons we don't actually demo this for general webinars is that since state standards do vary so much and how you want to implement assessments, we don't really show how that works, just so that it doesn't create a lot of confusion if your standards are different. But there is a way to link that. So if I go back to any of these lessons in the edit area, there is a way to build in these assessment milestone areas. You're going to see that on the app as well. So there is a way to be able to, for example, there's an observation tool on the app, and that is just a way for you to be able to create observations that are linked to students and their progress in assessment levels. And you can kind of see how that's starting to function when you go over to assessments. I have a student here who is working through these different milestone areas, and they're starting to build on where they might be in that particular progression. So these observations that I might have noted as a teacher on the iPad side, on the mobile app side of things, these start to build into how that student is developing and progressing in their learning. But again, it really needs to be adapted to your state standards and what your goals are for your particular lesson plan. So we have those capabilities. We can definitely build that into it. You'll just have to match it to the standards that you need to meet.
Okay.
Does that explain that okay?
I think so.
And we've made it through all of our questions, but Kale or Laura, was there anything else you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to, or that you might think is perhaps important that people know about this before we get to the end and talk about our promotion?
I think one of the things that makes this Learning Beyond unique and the partnership with Procare unique is that we really want our users to be our learning partners. So if you see anything that's out of place, or you know what, this lesson looked great on paper, but when we tried it, it didn't really work, or the kids weren't interested, we want to hear your feedback. We grow from that feedback, and because we are online, we're able to make changes. Some changes not as quick as others, but we do want our users to be our learning partners. So I see that you all pulled up the chat. You can always contact us through the chat, give us feedback, let us know. We really built this to be intentional, to be a time saver, and to really help you retain great staff. So we want to hear from you, the good and the bad and the ugly. So that's how we get better.
All right, Kale, I think we can stop sharing your screen, please. And we will get ready to talk about some of the highlights of what you just heard about digital curriculum. This ties in to your staff retention, because you can make your teachers' jobs so much easier, as Laura discussed. So you're saving time, it's easy to use, you're covering those classes easily, but you're most definitely not compromising the quality of instruction. The way that you can switch between age groups, it's seamless to use, and it's all right in the Procare app, the Procare software that some of you may be already using and might be already familiar with. Another perk of this is that the new content, it comes automatically. You don't have to buy a bunch of books, buy a new kit, buy all that stuff. It's just happening without you having to do anything. So it's saving you time and stress and another thing to worry about when you already have plenty to do. You're saving time, you're saving money. That prep time for teachers, it's really valuable as you start thinking about your goals for the new year and what you want to accomplish and how you want to keep your current staff happy. And remember that this is a great selling point too for your center. It's showing the parents of the children in your care that you really are committed to teachers' professional development as well as to their children's education. So it's kind of a twofer right there. Let's jump to the next slide, and we will discuss our promotion we're running through the end of the year. So until the end of the year, so you got to sign up before December 31st, you're going to get Procare Early Learning plus Procare for $1 a month for 3 months. So just scan the QR code and you can get your own demo or visit to answer any questions, and we can walk you through all those steps. or jot down the web address if you don't have your phone handy to scan the QR code. But on that note, we are so glad you joined us today, and we hope we answered all your questions. If not, get a hold of us and we would be more than happy to answer anything you have. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Kale. And thanks everyone again. Have a great rest of your day.